I wasn't really sure, and the officers themselves weren't sure what they were dealing with. Later on when I saw it, I knew that.
A 45-year-old man has been arrested after a body was discovered inside an Oshawa basement apartment.
Many cases are cracked wide open when bodies turn up in eerie places like abandoned buildings, hidden graves, and even dumpsters. But the last place you would expect to hide a body, let alone find one, is deep inside a clogged drain. But when a plumber arrived in this apartment to fix a routine blockage, he discovered something that would crack open not just one, but two cold cases. Two bodies of young women, later identified as Rori and Kandis. This is the chilling story of Adam Strong, the man whose darkest secrets were flushed to the surface. First victim, Rori Hotch. Rori was born in Oshawa, Ontario, to parents Shannon Dion and Ronnie Hotch in July '99. She was a free-spirited child with a bright future ahead. She was a part of Royal Canadian Army Cadets, a national youth program in Canada, and by age 13, she had earned the title of Cadet of the Year twice. But Rori's life wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Her grandfather, Bernie Gindin, was the founder of Satan's Choice Motorcycle Club, once the second largest biker gang in the world. And his son, Rori's uncle, was Harley Davidson Gwindin, a Hells Angels biker with a history of drug offenses and a pretty rich criminal record on him. But despite that, Harley adored his niece. However, things changed when Rori entered high school. At 14 years old, Rori was introduced to drugs, including crystal meth. And as it goes for most cases like this, that moment marked the beginning of Rori's years-long struggle with addiction. In 2016, when she was 17, Rori went to live with Harley and his family while he was under house arrest on drug charges. Her mother, however, was still worried for her daughter and reported her to the Children's Aid Society, hoping to get Rori the help she needed. But as she aged out of the system, Rori found herself on her own once again. But this time, she decided to turn her life on her own. In the next 6 months of her life, Rori found a job, a boyfriend, a stable income, and even an apartment. She even went back to school, and a few months later, found out she was pregnant, something she and her family welcomed with open arms. But in 2017, her world flipped yet again. In August of 2010, Rori relapsed. Despite the friends and family trying their best, Rori only seemed to dissociate more. In one account, Harley recalled their last hug, which he described as if it was a final goodbye. On August 29, 2017, Rori had a mental episode and was taken to the emergency room at Lakeridge Health in Oshawa by a friend. The CCTV footage showed her sitting in a room. That would be the last time anyone saw Rori Hotch alive. Days passed, and she didn't show up at her usual youth center, the Refuge. However, it didn't make sense to the people who were closest to her, because according to them, she was pregnant, stable, and looking forward to the future. Rori's grandmother set up a Finding Rori Hotch page on Facebook in hopes of getting any information that would lead them to her whereabouts. The family refused to report her as missing, hoping that she was just living her transient lifestyle and that she would return home soon. But their hopes were shattered on a random day in September of 2017. Discovery of Rori H's torso. On September 11, 2017, at Oshawa Harbor, an 11-year-old boy, along with his grandfather, were fishing when they made one of the most traumatizing discoveries of their lives. They saw what looked like a piece of trash floating on the water, and in hopes of cleaning the lake, the duo cast their lines toward it. After 30 minutes of struggle, they finally managed to reel it in, only to find out it wasn't garbage at all. It was a human torso. The police were immediately called to the scene, where they discovered that not only had the body been deliberately severed, but it also had obvious signs of trauma. The autopsy did not pinpoint a cause of death, but the circumstances led police to declare the incident as a homicide. For the next 2 months, the investigators searched for outstanding missing person files that might help with identifying the victim. And finally, after 2 months of intense investigation, they found a hit. On November 10, 2017, DNA from Rori's family was matched with that of the discovered torso to reveal a horrifying truth. The torso belonged to the missing 18-year-old Rori H. And with that discovery, her missing case turned into a full-blown murder investigation. Even though the discovery of Rori's body seemed to bring some closure to her family, there seemed to be a lot of questions that remained unanswered. Who had killed her? How did she end up in the lake? And most importantly, where was the rest of her body? With no new leads and no solid evidence, the murder case of Rori Hotch went cold until December of 2017. The horrifying secrets in Adam Strong's basement apartment. On December 28, 2017, a plumber, Jeremiah Wildeboer, was called by the residents of 19 McMillan Drive in Oshawa, Ontario, to snake the drains after complaints from upstairs tenants. The plumbers started their work in the downstairs apartment, the home of 45-year-old Adam Strong. As the plumbers worked, they noticed that Adam seemed on edge, hovering over them, constantly asking the men questions about what they thought the blockage was and how long they would be there. With little progress in the basement, the officers made their way upstairs to remove the blockage. But that is when things got dark. The pair started removing the substance that suspiciously looked pink and had hair on it. Confused, the plumbers started filling up plastic grocery bags with the strange substance and sent the pictures to their beats, who instructed them to pack up their tools and don't be obvious. They then called the police, who were unprepared for what they would find next. When Constable Kevin Park arrived, the plumbers gave him the bag containing what he described as a fleshy-like substance. The officer then went to the basement apartment to question Adam Strong. But that is when he said something that would shock the officers to their very core. "Okay, you got me, the gig's up, it's a body," Strong replied. "If you want to recover the rest of her, it's in my freezer." With these horrifying words, Strong was swiftly arrested and charged with indignity to a human body. But as it turns out, that wouldn't be the only thing he is charged for. During the search, officers found blood on Strong's bedroom walls and ceiling, and his semen was found on the body parts. But when they went to the freezer, they found something truly horrifying. The officers discovered several body parts, including a head. But any questions about who the remains belonged to were answered by a tattoo on the neck that read, "Alive," the same tattoo Rori had. Police confirmed body parts found in Oshawa basement belonged to missing teen. An autopsy revealed Rori had multiple facial injuries and 2 fractures. The exact cause of death was unclear. She had drugs in her system, but it was impossible to determine the quantity. She may have been strangled or killed by blunt force trauma. Nearly 4 months after she disappeared, Rori Hatch's remains had finally been found. The horrifying discovery had truly sent shockwaves through Ontario, along with more questions. Who was Adam Strong? What was his relationship with Rori Hatch? The blood and body remains were sent to the forensic team, but the trail of surprises didn't end there. There was something else the officers found. Something that would take this case to a whole new level. Discovery of a suspicious knife in Adam Strong's apartment. During the search of Adam's apartment, officers found a knife with human flesh on it. However, upon forensic investigation, the officers found something that was truly shocking. The DNA on the knife didn't belong to Rori at all. That is where the investigators began digging and found a strangely similar missing persons case. The only problem? The case was about 10 years old. To everyone's shock, the blood sample had matched with that of Kandis Fitzpatrick, a 19-year-old girl who went missing nearly 10 years prior. And as it turns out, Rori wasn't Strong's only victim. Second victim, Kandis Fitzpatrick. Kandis Fitzpatrick was born in Oshawa, Ontario. Her father, Bill Fitzpatrick, was a truck driver and strived to give Kandis a comfortable life. But things got dark for Kandis as she got older. By the time she was a teenager, Kandis had fallen into drug addiction and spent time on the streets. She frequently moved between shelters, friends' homes, and temporary living situations. This is why when the family did not hear from Kandis for a while in 2008, her family did not report her missing. It was in 2010 that the family finally showed concern over her disappearance. But with no leads or evidence, the case quickly went cold until the December of 2017. Kandis's DNA was on a knife in the kitchen of Strong's apartment, and her blood was in the freezer along with Rori's dismembered remains. The discovery only left the police and the public with more questions. But one thing the officers could not ignore was the eerie similarities between the lives of both 18-year-old Rori and 19-year-old Kandis. But how did the two girls cross paths with a 40-year-old Adam Strong? With questions piling up, the officers finally decided to talk to Adam Strong himself. Background on Adam Strong. Adam Strong was born in Ontario, Canada, and grew up in Oshawa. His friends and family always described him as an isolated and introverted individual who had a difficult childhood. According to Strong, he was raped by a woman babysitter when he was 4 years old and began having deviant thoughts at the age of 7. When he grew up, he started working as a handyman. Strong lived alone and was known to have a fascination with women's vulnerability. His internet history revealed a morbid fascination with extreme gore and death. But Adam's violence did not stop at mere fascination. One of his former girlfriends later testified in court, saying that she had been afraid of him for being violent, so much so that she had to wear a turtleneck since she had marks on her neck from Adam choking her with a belt. Unfortunately, this led to the horrific discoveries of December 2017. The interrogation of Adam Strong. During the first interrogation, Adam remained tight-lipped and refused to reveal any details about the case. But then the case caught the eye of Detective Paul Mitten, who sat with the accused double killer for nearly 11 hours, revealing details that would leave everyone horrified. Strong not only confessed to dismembering Ho-Chi, but he also seemed obsessed with knowing more about how the torso looked when it was discovered in Lake Ontario. He also said that he did not dismember the rest of Rory's body because he was a bad procrastinator. Although he said nothing about murdering the teens, Strong admitted that both teens had been in his apartment. However, the overwhelming evidence stacked against him provided the investigators with more than enough proof of his crimes. Data from Google showed that Strong's phone pinged at the Oshawa Harbor a week earlier on September 4 when he dumped Hotch's torso. While sitting with the detective, Strong described dismembering the bodies of the teens as natural. "It felt natural the way I cut around the socket and everything released," said Strong. But no matter how hard they tried, Strong said nothing about his sexual relations with the victim. Investigators said that they had found his semen after examining Hotch's pelvis, which was found in Strong's basement freezer. His response to that was strange, to say the least. He appeared shocked, saying, I took her apart, right? So, could it have spilled? And theories on the connection of both victims. While Adam Strong did not provide investigators with any details about his interaction with the two victims, the investigators argued that Strong likely targeted the girls due to their vulnerability, as both struggled with addiction and homelessness, and his actions were just a result of his escalating predatory behavior. This theory became more credible when Constable Christopher Kane came forward with a shocking statement, something that would provide more insight into Rory's last moments. Kane revealed that he had encountered Rory Hotch many times over the years as he patrolled Oshawa. When Kane asked her what she'd been up to, Rory told the officer that she had been using drugs and had gone on dates to pay for these drugs. She also revealed that she was camping out on the streets instead of her apartment. And although it provided little information about what had happened to Rory, it did provide Rory's family with a little closure: the trial of Adam Strong. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, as well as the videotapes of 11-hour-long interrogation, Adam strongly pleaded not guilty to the murders of Rori Hotch and Kandis Fitzpatrick, but admitted to dismembering the teens. However, in March of 21, Adam Strong was found guilty of first-degree murder and manslaughter. He was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole. Families react to killer Adam Strong's sentencing. Although Rori Hotch's family was able to say their final goodbyes to their beloved daughter, Kandis Fitzpatrick's family was not so lucky. Adam refused to reveal any details about Kandis or where her remains were until November of 21. Kandis Fitzpatrick's remains found. During his time in prison, Strong opened up to one of the staff members of the correctional facility that he had buried Kandis's body in a large green space area in northern Oshawa. Upon learning this, the staff member quickly relayed this information to the investigators. They interviewed Strong in November of 21, after which he was released into the custody of Durham officers and taken to the site in Oshawa. Finally, on November 8th, officers found human remains in a small clearing by the tree line behind Secreto Drive in Oshawa. In February of 22, the police held a press conference in Whitby, revealing that 14 years after her disappearance, human remains uncovered late last year in Oshawa belonged to Kandis Fitzpatrick. Following the discovery, Kandis's father Bill Fitzpatrick's heartbreaking works shocked the nation. "It's good to have her home," he said, "but it does bring it all back again." While justice was served, the scars remained. While the discovery brought Rori Hotch and Kandis Fitzpatrick's families some comfort, they will never get back what was taken from them.